Hi, I'm Elle Armageddon. Thank you so much for having me and all sitting here to listen to me. There are a lot of you out there. Today I actually want to talk about a totally different kind of horror story and a totally different kind of vulnerable user than the ones that Eva and Morgan discussed and than the horror stories that Jan and Peter discussed. I'd like to talk about average users and how they're vulnerable to relatively unsophisticated attackers, but how that doesn't actually make those threats less terrifying or less serious. So just a quick show of hands, how many people in the audience have ever had a stalker? That's more of you than I would like. I'm really glad that most of you haven't had this experience because it really, really, really sucks. I actually had my first stalker when I was 16 years old. I was a junior in high school, and it was some guy that I had met over spring break who was like friends with my best friend's former best friend and whatever. And I was just really busy all the time, and he was like, hey, do you want to be my girlfriend? And I was like, you know, I'd love to, I just seriously don't have time for that. And so he asked if he could start calling me every once in a while, and I was like, oh, you know, where's the harm in that? Sure. And I gave him my phone number. And the next thing I knew, this guy was calling me every single day. And I would always be, you know, running out the door to football practice or to my job or to rehearsals for the musical that I was in or choir rehearsals or any one of the other things that I was doing. And so I never really had time to talk to him. And soon he started getting kind of angry about it and demanding more of my time. And when that didn't play out, he started showing up places. He started showing up outside of my job. He started showing up on my school campus, waiting outside of my math class for me to leave, despite the fact that he should have also been in school at that time. And it got really, really, really scary. And eventually I had to kind of go to my dad and be like, Dad, this guy is really scary and I don't know what to do. And the next time he called, my dad was just like, you better leave my daughter alone or else. And that was the end of it. And the reason I start with this story is because this was in the spring of 2002. So this was going on in my life kind of concurrently with the launch of Friendster. This guy had the ability to track me down and show up places without even having any information provided on social media. And the existence of social media has actually made it much, much easier to track people down. So there are fortunately a lot of steps that you can take to kind of mitigate some of the danger that you're facing when having a public-facing face. There's a lot of faces. Pseudonymity is a great first step. Choose a public name. Use that public name publicly all the time. That is who you are. The awesome thing about a public name is that your legal name is something that was given to you before anybody had ever met you. They maybe had expectations of who you would be, but they definitely didn't know who you would turn out to be. And so that means that your legal name might not actually match who you are anyway, and choosing a public name gives you the opportunity to pick one that does match who you really are. It can be as simple as using a shortened version of your legal name or using your middle name in place of your first name, or maybe using your dad's middle name in place of your last name, or whatever. It can be anything you want. It can be simple like that. It can be choosing the name Armageddon as your last name. Whatever it is, make sure that it's something that you'll actually respond to. Reserve your legal name for official things like signing leases and other contracts, signing up for utilities, maybe for applying for jobs, Thanksgiving dinner, because I can tell you no matter how hard you try, your mother will never call you Armageddon. It's also really, really important to work on not responding when somebody does use your legal name. So if you're choosing a name to use publicly and to use in the world, you definitely want to start tuning out people using the wrong name for you, because that's information that you don't want publicly available. Disinformation and misdirection are also really, really helpful. More information that you put out there means that people tend to dig less looking for information. The information that you throw out there doesn't actually have to be true or honest. It needs to be consistent. So if you're talking on 3 different social media platforms about something, you just want to make sure that it's the same thing that you're saying across the board, rather than maybe telling the truth one place and then saying something totally different in another place. And suddenly there's this kind of matrix of inconsistent stories that don't add up, and now you actually are interesting to kind of dig into. Being mind-numbingly boring also really helps. The more pictures of your lunch and really boring, extremely detailed stories about, the line that you were in at the grocery store last week, the more trite memes you post, the more cat pictures you post, all of these things make you actually a lot less interesting to dig into and a lot more difficult to dig into, because you're just flooding your own profile with useless information. Subtlety is also key. If you are going to throw disinformation out there, if you are going to kind of tell some lies about who you are to avoid having people dig into who you actually are, you might want to make sure that you're not saying something like, I was a gold medalist in the Sydney Olympics. I was obviously not a gold medalist in the Sydney Olympics. I think we would remember an Armageddon there. Compartmentalization is also really important. You should consider keeping your social media profiles separate, especially in cases where you've maybe given your employers access to one of these accounts, but not all of them. Use different handles if you'd like to compartmentalize, because using different handles makes it a lot harder to kind of connect the dots between these different profiles. And use unique email addresses as well. I started talking about social media self-defense kind of right after the Ashley Madison breach happened, because it turned out that it was a great example of what not to do using social media of any kind. People were using their .gov email addresses to sign up for this dating site, the premise of which was cheating on your partner. And when that data gets dumped, it's really easy to kind of put 2 and 2 together, and now you've got everybody in your office looking at you like, buddy, I don't judge, but oh my God. It's also kind of a good idea when compartmentalizing to think about what you want linked together and what you don't want linked together. I've put up a couple examples of theoretical email addresses for my Facebook login, my Twitter login, and dating site login. You'll notice that the Facebook and Twitter emails are really similar. They're different but similar, so that if Facebook and Twitter were both hacked tomorrow and all of their user data was dumped, you would probably be able to figure out that that was the same person across both sites. The dating site one is totally different, because if they were also hacked in this massive, catastrophic, apocalyptic social media data dump, I maybe wouldn't want my dating site to be linked to my Twitter and my Facebook. It's also a good idea to fabricate unique, personally identifying information. Social media sites want your date of birth, they want your legal name, they want your address, they want to know where you went to high school, and they don't need that. That's your information. You get to choose how it gets used and who has it. And there's no need to actually hand it over to any social media profile or any social media site, no matter how much they want it. Another aspect of compartmentalization is maintaining a professional life and a personal life. If you can possibly help it, don't share your social media profiles with your coworkers. Definitely don't share them with your boss. That is definitely not within the scope of professional relationships in most cases, and it's super not necessary. If you are in a scenario where you feel like it's necessary, consider creating a work-specific profile and maintaining a personal profile as well, rather than kind of blending the two and hoping for the best. Do not use your work email for your personal accounts. I kind of mentioned this a little bit earlier with people using .gov email addresses to sign up for Ashley Madison. That's really bad. It's super embarrassing. Just don't do it. And also remember that whatever you say publicly can hurt you professionally. If it's possible for me to track down where it is that you work and you've said something really shitty, it's also possible for me to go to your supervisor and be like, this guy said something really shitty. Are you sure that's who you want to employ? So it's a good idea to kind of keep all of that separate, and just remember that what you say can hurt you if people have the information to do that. Choose your photos really carefully. Beware of reverse image search. If you're trying to keep profiles separate, you want to kind of make sure that you're not making it super easy by, having the same profile having the same profile picture in both. In fact, don't use the same pictures and profiles that you want to keep separate at all. Reverse image search sucks and it will fuck you up. If you're unsure of whether or not to use a picture, dump it into reverse image search first and see what it turns up. Maybe it's totally fine, maybe it's not. It's worth checking. Never attach your face to profiles that you do not want linked to your personal identity. So if you decide that you want to have this compartmentalized profile on a dating site, for example, don't put pictures of your face on it. It is way, way, way too easy to track people down using pictures of their face and connect the dots. Also, because we're talking about public names versus legal names, don't attach your face to your legal name if you can help it. The DMV will obviously have this. That's unavoidable. But in general, it's kind of not really necessary to attach your face to your legal name if you have a public name as well. Keeping secrets is also really important. Secrets are not secrets once they're shared, even with one person, because you have no guarantee that it's not going to travel farther than that one person. Good intentions can't stop thoughtless comments, so no matter how much you trust someone, that doesn't mean that they're never going to get drunk and accidentally spill your secret to somebody who's really interested in hearing it. And once it's out, you really can't get it out, or get it back. As one might say, the cats are out of the bag. The internet does not forget. So if your secret is out and also on the internet, you're really screwed. It's there forever. Keep it secret, keep it safe, tell nobody if it actually needs to stay secret. And if somebody does kind of confront you about something that you don't want to talk about, whoops. I have a fantastic example of how to answer those questions.
Do you recall that any criminal actions were pending against you at the end of 2008?
I don't recall any.
Do you recall being at all concerned about any criminal actions that may have been pending against you at the end of 2008?
I don't recall.
Do you recall that in the summer of 2007 you were arrested in New York City following a performance at the Beacon Theater?
I don't recall that.
And so the reason you say, I don't recall that, is because then if somebody comes back with photographic evidence, you haven't just said, no, that never happened. You've said, I don't remember shit. This is actually a really important distinction. It's really, really difficult to prove that you do in fact remember something. It's really easy to prove that you did something. So yeah, not remembering is in a lot of cases your best defense when you don't want to discuss something. Oh, for heaven's sake. Threat modeling is also really important. Deciding what it is that you want to keep from the public eye has a lot to do with what it is that you're afraid of experiencing in your life. Nobody knows your threat model better than you do. There are a lot of people who will tell you that they do, but they're wrong. Don't listen to them. You know what you're up against better than anybody in the world. Threat modeling also isn't actually about telling you what to do. It's about helping you decide how to go about it. It's about helping you decide how to mitigate the damage that you may be doing to yourself, rather than preventing you from living the life that you want to live. The idea behind threat modeling is to live safely. It's not to let the concept of safety prevent you from having a real life. Communication is also really, really, really important. Your privacy is only as good as your friend's privacy. So you want to make sure that your friends know not to hand out your social information. You want to make sure that they know not to hand out your phone number to people just because they've asked, or your email address to people just because they've asked. One of my preferred methods of dealing with this is saying, I would be happy to pass your information on to them, rather than just handing it over. You might have different preferences, but whatever those preferences are, make sure that you're telling them to people as you're sharing your information with them so that they can respect those preferences. Also talk to your friends about tagging. Friends do not tag friends in publicly viewable photos of them doing embarrassing things. That's just not a thing. but talk about it. Let them know that you really don't want that. And also, don't stay silent. If you are actually facing the threat of being stalked, if you are facing an abusive partner, if you're facing an abusive work dynamic, or your parents are spying on you, or whatever it is, don't stay silent. Talk to people about that you trust. Because it's really important to remember that people use silence in abusive dynamics to perpetuate those abusive dynamics rather than having to face any kind of accountability. As soon as you start bringing more people in for an accountability process, the more likely you are to actually get that issue addressed. So what can you guys do? If you're not actually directly facing these threats, don't make assumptions about the threats that other people are facing. How many of you had ever considered social media being used to stalk somebody that you know before this talk? That's good. It's not enough. So don't make assumptions about what threats people face. Especially don't make assumptions about the threats that your users face. Do talk to your users about their concerns. Most of the time, if you ask people, hey, what are you worried about? Where do you see this potentially going wrong? You can at very least get an idea of where they're coming from, what they're facing, and what they'd like to see done to protect them. Keep the lines of communication open so users can bring concerns to you even if you're not directly asking. And believe your users when they tell you that they're worried. Believe them when they tell you that they're scared. There's a reason that they're opening up to some total stranger about how terrified they are, and it's worth listening to. If anybody has other questions, you can contact me on Twitter. You can email me at armageddon@riseup.net. You can also see a lot of the social media self-defense advice that I've written up at blog.totallynotmalware.com. Oops, no, that's not the right URL. blog.totallynotmalware.net. It's totally legit, I swear.